The question is, what is Crohn's disease, and is it an autoimmune disease? And Crohn's disease is actually an inflammatory bowel disease. It's in the category where you do have increased inflammation within the bowel itself. It probably is in the category of, or can be considered as autoimmune because it's an over-inflammatory response. But it's not related to any type of exposure to a food or any kind of environmental antigens. It may be a genetic predisposition. Some family members may have other autoimmune diseases or other inflammatory bowel disease. Oh, okay. So
like the different kind of immune system deficiencies and diseases.
Okay. So what you're asking about is a little bit different. So autoimmune and immunodeficiency are two different things. So autoimmune is when your body reacts against self. And there are, I can't even tell you how many diseases that fall in that category. Everything from diabetes to rheumatoid arthritis to Crohn's disease. So there are lots of autoimmune diseases. The immunodeficiency syndromes are a group of disorders where the immune system is lacking some part that allows us to be more susceptible to infections. So either we're not able to respond to viruses or bacteria appropriately because we don't make appropriate antibody, or we don't make enough antibody once we're exposed to a bug. So usually if you get a cold, if you have a normal immune system, your body will start to... the most common... Okay, let me finish my thought. So if you get a cold, your immune system will start to make antibodies to that cold virus. So the next time you come in contact with it, you don't get the cold again. And so, that's how our immune system works. And that's really a very simplistic way of looking at it. There are lots of different parts of our immune system that make all of that occur. Someone who has an immune deficiency may not make appropriate antibody. Their bodies may not even recognize the virus, or it may recognize the virus and make antibodies, but those antibodies don't last very long. So there are lots of different ones. And his question was, what is the most common immunodeficiency? And the most common one is called IgA deficiency. It's very, very common, and most people don't even know that they have it because our immune system is so redundant. There are lots of different parts of the immune system that help us fight off infections. But the IgA is usually a type of antibody that lines the mucosal surfaces, so the surfaces in our nose and our sinuses down in our respiratory tract, and they're the first defense against any type of foreign germ. So if someone sneezes on you tonight, hopefully your IgA will sop it up and you won't get sick. If you don't have IgA, then your body can respond by making another type of antibody called IgM. So, we have a lot of different ways that we fight off infections, but IgA deficiency, to answer your question, is the most common.
Can I add to that just real quick? I don't want to get in. It's a very complicated system, but I think you kind of alluded to two opposite problems. If you may think of autoimmune illnesses as almost the exact opposite of immune deficiencies, because when you're developing, your immune system has the very difficult task of having to decide what is foreign that it needs to respond to and what is you that it doesn't need to respond to. And it's a very complex system in the thymus and other things where cells are selected and deleted, and it's we know a lot about that. It's very complex. But basically, autoimmune illnesses are thought to be an aberration where the body is now making an immune response to some of your own tissue, where it should not be making a response to your own tissue, whereas immune deficiency is you're not able to mount a response to something that you should be able to mount a response to. So that's very simplistic, but when you think about it, that's the real key for the body to react to things that are foreign, but not to react to your own body process. Well, the one you kind of maybe alluded to, and I think Janet mentioned, the boy in the bubble is called severe combined immune deficiency, or abbreviated as SCID, and these people are really in bad shape because some of these, we know the genetic cause for that, but they don't have the ability to mount any of the common arms of the immune response, and so the least little thing is able to cause overwhelming infection and then their death. The good news is there have been new treatments for that, and even bone marrow transplantation has been used to correct some of those defects, and some of these kids have been able to survive without having to live in the bubble that you remember from the 1970s or 80s. So.
Well, and if I remember correctly, those real severe immunodeficiencies are fairly rare, are they not?
Fortunately, yes.
Yes, they're very rare.
For probably the reason Janet would tell you that there's a selective disadvantage to having those conditions.
Well, and children with severe immune deficiency would not survive. I mean, a child. So probably the most common one that people would have would be an antibody deficiency called common variable immune deficiency, and that is an immune deficiency where your body is not able to mount an appropriate antibody response to a foreign antigen. And those people usually have more bacterial infections of the sinuses. They have more episodes of pneumonia than normal. Those are the most common manifestations. But for the severe combined immune deficiency, if a child is not treated, I mean, we treat it as a pediatric emergency, because if a child is not treated immediately, that child is not expected to live a month.